Welcome to my talk. My name is Isaya Kisekka. I'm an associate professor of agricultural water management and irrigation engineering at the University of California, Davis, in the departments of land and water resources and the Department of biological and agriculture engineering. I'm going to be talking about next generation almond orchard irrigation system designs that account for spatiotemporal variability and optimization of agroecosystem services. Really, it's going to be the things that I hope irrigation system designers should be considering if they aren't already considering them, because I consider them very critical to the future of smart irrigation systems in almond production systems. Okay. I would like to cover 4 items. One, the topic of spatial temporal variability and irrigating by variety, optimization of agroecosystem services, and the role irrigation system designers can play in helping growers with regulation compliance. So let's start with spatial temporal variability. As irrigation system designers, this is not a new topic. Most of you are aware that no field is 100% uniform, and there is always a compromise on how to optimize the system such that it's economically viable while still meeting all the engineering, horticulture, and other considerations. Okay. So I'm going to share some of our experience on a ranch that we've been working on that has had to deal with this issue of spatial temporal variability. This is a farm here in the Central Valley that has soils that are very heterogeneous. And what you're looking at on this slide is apparent electrical conductivity that was measured by an EM38 instrument. You can see that the soils range from an orange color to a green to a blue color. The reddish orange color is very nice deep clay soils, and the green color are sort of transitional soils between the nice heavy clays and the blue, which are very light sandy soils. Okay. These soils tend to have different water holding capacities and different infiltration rates, which become a challenge to a grower on how to decide irrigation set times, especially if you have these different soil types within the same irrigation set or block. Okay. So if you look at canopy growth in this Google image picture, you see that the canopy growth actually matches or very similar to what we saw in the variability of the soil. If you look at this block, for example, where we had these light soils, the blue, okay, we go back one, you'll see that the light canopy here corresponds to the light soils, okay, and the heavy canopy or the dark green here corresponds to where we had the nice heavy soils, and this is true in all these different orchards as well. If we look at water stress, the colors you're looking at range from red, which is the highest water stress, and blue, which is unstressed. And these stress levels are derived from a thermal image that is taken by an airplane. You notice that some of the variability is just due to the fact that some of the blocks were just irrigated before the flight, like this blue area here. This straight line here is not natural soil variability, but it's just an irrigation system or scheduling issue. But nevertheless, you see that you have these blues and red colors even within the same irrigation set or block, for example, here. Okay. And so the challenge then becomes, what is the smallest management unit irrigation system designers should be considering in order to manage this spatial variability? Should they be considering individual tree level, zone level, or block level? What makes the most practical sense in terms of economics, production, and environmental stewardship? It's not a trivial question because you have to optimize all these factors in the irrigation design. But as you know, the Almond board has a desire from their sustainability goals to reduce the amount of water needed to grow a pound of almonds by an additional 20%. There's already been a significant reductions in the amount of water used in growing almonds over the last 30 years, but there's even more work that we can do to further reduce the amount of water used in almond production. And one opportunity is to increase yields, okay, in low producing areas within an orchard. Okay. And this variability is not always due to low water stress in terms of less water. In some of these orchards, the problem is actually due to too much water in certain parts of the orchard. As I mentioned earlier, the biggest problem in this particular ranch is low infiltration rates, because the water that, especially the surface water that they get, has very low electrical conductivity. And from soil physics, we know that that can create sodicity problems, which result in too low infiltration and drainage problems. So you can see this tree dieback is due to this particular area, one of the areas on this ranch that doesn't infiltrate very well. In fact, you can sometimes the trees actually just fall over, and you can see one of them has just been replaced here. Okay, so how do you manage this problem? You can see all these trees on the same lateral here. Some of them are just doing fine, and some of them are experiencing severe stress. So how do you design an irrigation system that can address these problems? And they can occur at different times and in different parts of the orchard. So the system should be very flexible. The way these particular growers address this problem is to use zone irrigation management. Zone irrigation is sort of the compromise between variable rate, which would account for all the soil variability, and irrigating the large entire blocks. So it's sort of somewhere in between in terms of sophistication and in terms of cost. So what this grower did was to break down the farm into 3 different zones, which they called blue, green, and red. And the idea was to try, to the extent practically possible, to group parts of the orchard that had the same infiltration rates and the same water holding capacities. The problem is when you have such a system, it becomes very complex in terms of irrigation scheduling, you know, or to keep track of which zone was irrigated and which zone wasn't irrigated. And you also need a much better designed head control system that can operate over a wide range of flow rates, because you can go from just running 200 gallons a minute to running over 1500 gallons a minute. Okay, so you need a variable rate drive in such a situation. And this variability has economic implications, because in one of the blocks at this particular ranch, we saw a difference between the highest yielding areas and the lowest yielding areas within the same block of over 1,000 pounds per acre. Okay, this is quite significant. So how can irrigation system designers help growers improve production in these low producing areas of the orchard? Basically turn this problem into an opportunity. This is another ranch we've just started working at, very close to Davis here. And if you look at this NDVI map, again, you see the variability. High NDVI in pink and low NDVI in cyan and yellow, and sort of matching the soil variability. Okay, the NDVI is higher where you have these nice loam soils, and a little bit lower where you have these clay soils, which I think again relates to the issue of drainage. So we went in and did an EM38 mapping, and again we noticed the same thing. Okay? Where the production or the trees are healthy, up here in the northwest corner, we had very low apparent electrical conductivity, and where you see high electrical conductivity, apparent electrical conductivity here is because of differences in soil type. Because there's no non-salinity here, so what is driving these differences is primarily differences in clay content or water content. So how do you help this grower that just has two irrigation sets? He runs this half of the orchard and this half of the orchard. Okay. Ideally, this upper corner of the orchard should be run differently from the rest of set one. So those are questions that designers should be thinking about. How can they help growers that we have thousands of these systems in the over 1 million acres of almonds, bearing almonds that we have in California. Okay. For new systems, it's easier to think about these issues and design a system to better address these spatial variability problems. Another important topic is irrigating by variety. And as you know, in California, most orchards are designed to have more than one variety to achieve effective pollination. And traditionally, irrigation in these orchards has been driven by the non-parallel variety. We've been doing some work to look at the effect of irrigating by variety. This is another ranch that we're working at. And in this particular orchard, you have three varieties. You have the non-parallel, which is the lucrative variety, and then you have pollinators, Aldrich and Butte, and you can see here that they have different canopy architecture, which of course influences light interception, crop water use, and biomass accumulation, and so on. And the question then is, if we irrigate by variety, can we improve production and water use efficiency and so on? It will be easiest if irrigation system designers can already design a system that allows a grower to control each of these rows or these different varieties independently. In the system we are working in, this wasn't done, so we had to do some retrofitting to put solenoid valves on each row, so we could be able to test this idea. But the system would work a lot more seamlessly if you had three sub-mains, and each sub-main was controlling one variety. So the idea we were trying to test is that we know that these different varieties have different phenologies, so they reach the whole split period at different times. So the first variety in this particular orchard that reaches whole split is a non-parallel, then the Aldrich variety, and then the Butte variety. So if we irrigate, all the trees receive the full irrigation at before whole split, and then we start cutting back, there could be opportunities here to achieve some water savings and improve our irrigation water use efficiency. And the other benefit is to allow us to irrigate the variety that continue to irrigate a variety that has not yet reached its whole split. As you know, this is a very important period during the life cycle of an almond, because this is when bud depreciation for the next season occurs, so it's not good to water stress trees. But in order to do all this refined management, you need a system that allows you the flexibility to do this. So we tested these concepts by reducing water levels by 25% and 50%. We didn't see significant differences. As you can see here, the strategies are S1 to S4, and they're not statistically significant, but this was done in a mature orchard in the Sacramento Valley climatic conditions. We think more research is still needed to really confirm the benefits of this management strategy, both in terms of reducing water use and improving production. And irrigation systems that allow us to test those concepts are highly needed. As you can see here, the nonpareil was harvested, but the grower was still continuing to irrigate. But because of poor infiltration in some of the areas, you have this water that may end up going into the nuts that are drying on the floor, orchard floor. So when you're designing irrigation systems, you need to take into consideration all these factors. So once you either make a variable rate or zone irrigation management design, then the second question is, how do you schedule irrigation for the different zones or even an individual tree? And the role of automation. Technology already exists to provide zone level or tree level, either satellite or even drone-based ET, and tree-based monitoring and soil moisture-based monitoring to guide those irrigation levels. We've been doing some work validating commercially available ET that growers can use to schedule irrigation for the different zones. And this is a commercially available service called ILIWatch that we are comparing against very rigorous scientific methods of measuring ET, and you can see good agreement between the satellite-derived ET, and the resolution of this product is at a 10 meter by 10 meter. And Jane Irrigation has their own service. Roofrest Irrigation also has their own ET service, and the bunch of others. And there are also now more sensors on the market that allow growers to measure stem water potential if they found the pressure bomb very laborious. And our work in almonds, as you can see on this slide, the orange dots are the pressure bomb and the blue line are the osmometers or pressure stem water potential sensors. They show good agreement, which is indeed very promising. So combining all the sensors with a nicely designed irrigation system can provide growers a lot of flexibility. I would also like to talk about this really boundary pushing concept. We have done a good job designing irrigation system to provide water to meet the crop needs. But as the needs of society are changing and awareness, we now need to design irrigation systems, or you guys need to design irrigation systems as the people in the irrigation design industry that address multiple objectives, including agroecosystem services. Okay, there are many agroecosystem services. Food production, irrigation system designers have been critical, and they have done an incredibly good job to design systems to produce food. But we need to design systems that enhance water quality, soil health, reduce greenhouse carbon emissions, and sequester carbon in the soil. Okay. So those systems, we need to design those with a different mindset. For example, we need to design systems that can provide water to both the tree as well as the cover crops in some areas where cover crops are proved to be viable, because these cover crops have many benefits. They can improve soil health, but they can also improve bee habitat, which is important for pollination. So micro sprinklers in this case would be very useful because they provide water here between the interrows where the cover crops are growing. And these cover crops also help with soil microbes, which are critical in nutrient recycling and storage. Okay. This work done at UC Davis here has also shown the importance of whole orchard recycling, as you know, once the orchard goes through its life cycle, it gets cut down and chopped into these small wood chips. And you need an irrigation system that will be able to provide water where these chips are being poured in the interrows to be broken down and be incorporated in the soil. And a lot of benefits are being shown for whole orchard recycling. Another big one is managed aquifer recharge. And this goes to, again, thinking about dual-purpose irrigation system. So you design irrigation systems that would meet crop ET, but also can allow flooding of the orchard to recharge groundwater if flood waters exist. In California, one of the few things that I know that are certain is at one time we are going to be in a drought. I think we're in early stages of a drought right now. Another thing is at some point we'll get a flood. So in some areas where these flood waters are available, it will be nice to design systems that allow the flexibility to do managed aquifer recharge. Okay? And this has to be coordinated very well with in-season management to minimize mobilization of nutrients and other agrochemicals. Again, designers need to be thinking about all these complex interactions. When it comes to harvesting, it will be nice to have systems that allow you to continue irrigating one variety while you're drying on the floor another variety that happens to reach maturity quicker. And that's why more and more you're now seeing systems that have both drip and micro sprinklers. Okay. And then this concept of DU, or distribution uniformity. How should we be measuring it and interpreting it under variable rate irrigation systems? Again, you can see these examples here. Variability in DU here can translate into large differences in applied water between the upper quarter and the lower quarter of a traditional large block. But what does this mean if you're dealing with individual tree or smaller zones? Something to think about. Again, we have a lot of regulations that are targeting nitrogen or salts, but the fundamental basis of this is irrigation. If you have poor irrigation, you're going to have issues with nutrient leaching. So designers can help design systems that allow for more optimized fertigation and irrigation, which would help growers become more compliant with regulations. Again, this just shows the extent of some of the problems we have, like nitrate leaching that is now heavily regulated, as well as salt salinity in the Central Valley and other parts of California. In summary, irrigation system designers need to consider spatiotemporal variability caused by soil heterogeneity, variety, diseases, and other factors. Designers need to adopt this new term here that I'm coining called Agroecosystem Irrigation as a new paradigm to irrigation system design and management. Designers can also help growers be more profitable and sustainable at the same time. The two can go hand in hand. And designers can also help growers become better compliant with regulations. Thank you for listening to me, and if you have any questions, this is my contact. Thank you.